Hello, and welcome to the EcoSend podcast, a weekly podcast on becoming a climate conscious business. Every week, we'll be interviewing founders, marketers, and leaders who are championing the climate. The podcast is hosted by myself, James Gill, co-founder and CEO of Go Squared, and the makers of EcoSend. If you run a business or are responsible for growing one, and you want to have a positive impact on the environment, then listen on. Every episode, our goal is for you to learn something and be inspired to take some action. Every single one of us making small changes and some large changes will add up. We're all in this together. So let's get on with the show. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's meet today's guest. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the EcoSend podcast. I'm James, your host, and we're now towards the end of series 2 of the EcoSend podcast, and what a series it's been. I am thrilled to have this week joining me, Kate Clarke, to be talking all about her journey into the world of sustainability. And I'm sure many of you listening will have been on or be going on your own journeys yourselves. So hopefully going to have a ton of great stuff to talk about today with Kate. Kate Clarke is an independent ethical marketing and content strategist that works with purpose-driven coaching businesses to get crystal clear on who their audience is and how to reach them in the most natural and simple way. So, Kate, I am thrilled to have you here today. How are you doing? And welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Great to have you. So I'm keen to dig in and just hear more about what you're up to. I know there's a brief intro there, but you're working with coaches, working with purpose-driven coaches. Tell me more about your business and as it stands today. What are you up to?
Like you said, I work with coaches and consultants to really help them on their marketing journey. So the thing that I absolutely love to do is to help people with understanding where their blockers are with their marketing and to help them get past that. So I do a lot of training and mentoring, but also just working on people's strategy and helping them put that into a logical plan. Like I work with a lot of people that have all the ideas and they just don't know how to put that into a plan or what that looks like from, with in line with their sales or their other objectives and just plotting it all out and where that sits with different platforms and how to repurpose and what to say on different platforms and how to repurpose it for different platforms and how that all works and how it all works together. Like it's in my problem solving logical structured brain, it just works really well in terms of how I help people plan that out. And
Sure.
I think some of the blockers that I come across a lot are sometimes they just have all these ideas and they write stuff, but they don't always know or they're completely blocked when it comes to creating putting the post out there or creating the podcast or whatever, the next stage. There's a big blocker then, and it comes down to that whole vulnerability and confidence and feeling like a fraud and the imposter syndrome and there's lots of mindset stuff going on there, which I don't propose to be any kind of expert or coach myself. Like I can't psychologically help people and be a therapist, but it's important to understand where these blockers are so that you can also that I can help them on that journey a bit more. So there's lots of different kind of facets to that. I think I work on doing the strategy, on getting deeper with the audience, helping people get started with email marketing, putting social media plans together, some of the real practical stuff then that comes out of it as well.
Amazing. You sound like the perfect alternate person to me who is always chucking random ideas out there and rarely has a good plan of how to actually put them into reality. So I can totally see how those skills are incredibly valuable to many people because yeah, without a Kate in the equation, most of the things probably stay in people's heads or are just said out loud, but they rarely become the real thing, or at least
Lots of notebooks full of notes and ideas, lots of Trello boards that get created, spreadsheets that get done, maybe depending on who is how well versed people are with spreadsheets. But yeah, it lends well. A lot of entrepreneur types like yourself are in the same way. They have the ideas and they're enthusiastic and excited to get them done, and then stuff doesn't get done because
yeah.
next idea comes along.
Yeah,
Or...
you've already had the third idea in a row of something else, and oh, that's boring now. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's amazing. So I'm keen to hear more. I guess the whole theme of today's show is really your journey to doing this, Kate. So, and you're working with many of these individuals and businesses who are proclaiming to be purpose driven and caring about not just the profits, but more than that. I take it you didn't just wake up one day and decide that's what you want to do. So very keen to hear about your journey to this point and where did it all begin?
This is a very long story. So how far back do you want to go?
we got the podcast to talk about
We've
it,
got
so
all
it's fine.
day. It's all good. Okay, so let's go back to my corporate kind of world life.
Right. There was a
I
corporate
worked
life, I
in,
see. I
yeah,
see.
there was a corporate life. There's always a corporate life, right? That's where most people kind of start out. And I was in the corporate life for like 15, 16 years, happily working my way up the ladder and doing all the things that I was supposed to do. And then had kids, and like everything changed from that point. I think my whole kind of outlook on life and my perspectives and my priorities all changed within an instant. And
Wow.
I went back to work in the same company part time when my kids were like nearly a year old, and just knowing at this point that this was not going to be my forever journey. Like I needed to know what the next step was. And I think from working in, and I didn't work in, it wasn't like a bad toxic company, but it was just corporate, and it was just that's just the way it is. That, like it's there's just a certain way of doing business 15 years ago that's very different to what it is now. And that they weren't massively into the whole fear, uncertainty, and doubt thing when it came to marketing, but there was a lot of that around. And I think I just thought that the fear, uncertainty, and doubt way of marketing things was the only way, until
Right.
you start to open your eyes. And it always did. It always did. It didn't sit well with me. Like this idea that we were using manipulation tactics to get people to buy things that, did they really need them? I don't know, but they're paying
Sure.
thousands and thousands and thousands. But the company I worked for wasn't like that. Like they were very much against the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But there was a lot of that around in the industry, because I worked in the cybersecurity industry, and there was a lot of that around in the industry. There was a lot of the manipulation and cyber companies telling small businesses that if they didn't spend thousands and thousands on all these different things, then they were going to the hackers were going to get you. And
Right. Right. So you had a bit of a crisis of conscience of like, this is not what we should be doing as
yeah.
individuals. Yeah.
And when you have kids, things do like change in your brain, because you start to think more about the future, and you're less
Yeah.
selfish as well. It's less about you and more about these other little people in your life that you think about. And it's like it changes you. So then at that point I was thinking about, well, where does my career journey go from here? And I knew that to work around family, I mean, going back, my kids are 7 now, so going back to the way business was 8 years ago, like flexible working was around, but it wasn't the default. And it certainly wasn't something within the company I was working for that I could have that flexibility around family. And I remember broaching the subject with my manager at the time, and he was just like, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Not actually that far away though, so we need to kind of broach that subject now. So yeah, I was kind of disillusioned in that way. So I started thinking about how to plot the journey into working for myself. And when I got there, I knew that I just knew at that point from the past experience, and I'd been through a whole journey with infertility as well, and that changed me in terms of like on the spiritual journey and wanting to
Mm,
work with people that were making the world a healthier and happier place, and not
yeah.
it. So there was that element to it. And then I in 2021 I discovered I partnered up with Hannah Cox and we launched the Better Business Network together. And this was kind of the next fork in the road for me as
Right.
I got in touch with Hannah and I said, I'm at this place in my business and I want to do better. And she was doing stuff with sustainability. And I knew I kind of wanted to dip my toe in that area, but didn't really know what that looked like because I didn't really know a huge amount about sustainability at this point in time. And she said, well, I'm launching this network and I need somebody to come and help me. And that has just opened up my eyes to so much. Like I've met so many businesses on now. And it's been inspirational and eye-opening to all these people making huge changes in the world
Yeah.
and unapologetically and courageously, and it is inspiring. It's massively inspiring. So
That's
yeah.
I mean, that's already just incredibly exciting because I mean, we can maybe dig into the Better Business Network a little bit more because I'm sure many people listening might have come across it themselves. But like, I guess from something we've felt for a long time is like, I don't know if you found this too, but there's often this assumption that like if you're running a business, you care about profit, and if you are in the charitable sector, you care about doing good, and like neither the two should cross paths. And in reality, like actually once you start stepping into this world, as I'm sure in the Better Business Network it's all about this, like there's a lot of businesses that are doing a lot more than just making profit and helping in incredible ways, often in ways that is it can have an even bigger impact than some charities. Like
Absolutely. And there's no one size fits all kind of way of doing this either, is what
yeah.
I've discovered, because I think I always had this thing of, well, I'm not a big, massive entrepreneur. I'm not a social enterprise. I'm not changing the world. I haven't got a product that's out there. But it doesn't matter. Like, that's not the point. The point is that you want to change the way things are done now. And no matter what it is that your profession is, whether it be marketing or finance or legal or whatever it is, like if you have that core want and need at the heart of what you do, then you're going to have a ripple effect out to every other business and people out there that hopefully then has turned the tides, which I think it
Yeah.
already is. I think it already is. And that's the amazing thing about the Better Business Network, is that it's such a different mix of people with you do different jobs. And some of them are social enterprises, some of them have products and services that really are changing the world and,
Yeah.
being regenerative, and that circular economy and all of that kind of stuff. Some of them are people like me in marketing
Mm.
and legal and finance who just have this need to want to work with
Mm.
people on the same level. And it's not about profit. It's about, yeah, putting people
Yeah.
first.
Absolutely. So is the Better Business Network, is that primarily a UK based thing, or is it around the world? Like if there's anyone listening, could they sign up wherever they are, or what's
Oh yeah, I mean it is a global when you think about it, because we've got, well, not we, because I'm not part of the Better. I don't work for the Better Business Network.
Don't worry, we're not trying to catch you
I
out.
still say we as if it was like my thing. It's not my thing. It's Hannah's thing. But there is members from Canada and the
Oh
US,
wow.
and there was somebody
Yeah.
somewhere else as well. So yeah, it's absolutely a global thing, and there are people. I
Yeah.
think it will become over time.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that was a big turning point for you. And so talk me through. So how long ago? That was
That
2021, you
was
were saying? So
2021, yeah. So
yeah.
from that point, yeah, like meeting all of the members through there, and did my carbon literacy training. So if you're a member, you get to do
Right.
the carbon literacy training for free, I think. I'm pretty sure it's still on there for members to do for free. So Hannah runs those carbon literacy trainings, which again, another massive eye opener in
Mm.
terms of, you know, the effect of the the climate change on the climate migration. And I mean, I was blown. I think the biggest stat that stood out for me was how much ice is actually melting from the polar ice caps, and it was like tons and tons and tons of ice. I can't even remember how
Mm.
to put it into context now, because I'd probably get it wrong, and then I wouldn't
Yeah.
checking me and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like tons of ice melting like every day.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, like it helped me then, understand how I can, because I'm just a small business. I work from home and I don't have I don't travel anywhere. I don't really go on aeroplanes very often. Like, once a year on a holiday. I didn't even do that for a few years. Um, so, but it's still understanding how you can reduce your carbon footprint, even when you are a small business in that sense. And the effect of digital, the effect on the climate from technology and digital is much bigger than what I originally thought. And you will obviously know this because you'll have, from a technology,
Yeah.
you've probably dug into a lot of this stuff. And
Yeah.
one of the people that um, really brought this home was a guy called Jerry McGowan, and I saw him speak in Manchester. And oh my God, what an engaging person! Like, I've never known
Mm.
anybody that can drive a message home as much as he really like punched me in the chest with it. But he has this worldwide waste. I think it's actually just a webinar at the minute. I'm not sure if he's wrote a book on it, but he really goes into all the detail on how much materials are used in making a phone, making a laptop,
Mm.
and how that is exponentially growing to a point where it's going to be unmanageable in a few years. And that is quite scary.
Ab-
Um,
Absolutely. I think the digital side, I mean, ourselves, like we were talking just before the episode. I mean, one on the subject of ice melting, it's incredibly easy to believe that today when we're in the UK and it is hotter than I can
uh,
remember it. But two, I think everyone sort of in the um who works at a laptop, maybe they work out of their own house or out of a Starbucks or whatever, you sort of it's a very clean seemingly way to work. Like you're not shoveling coal and
yes.
you're not sitting next to an exhaust fume, but actually like the supply chain of essentially everything getting to you in a web browser and even the computer you're using is phenomenal. And when you think
Yeah.
about just how the internet works and
Yeah.
computers sitting in very large data centers needing
Yes.
huge amounts of power and huge amounts of water as well for
Yes. They
cooling.
need to be
And
cooled, don't they? Yeah.
yeah, and so it's all of these things.
And everything that
uh
you put on a website, the amount of pictures and the amount of images you send in through email, like all of this
yeah,
mounts up to the massive amounts of data that is then stored. And people,
exactly. And I guess to your point earlier around like as an individual it sometimes feels like there's not much you can do, but like individually, like even if you have just a small website it can still be optimized. And
yes,
um and and then also just the number of people that access that website, a small website may be accessed by thousands and thousands of people. So there's these small changes, and especially in the marketing profession, like the amount of impact you can have as well from the message you send out there as well about
yeah,
the kind of business you want to be running and the kind of message you want to be putting out there into the world. It's yeah, I think in the digital sector, like it is a big problem today, but I think there's also so much opportunity for it to have a more positive impact.
yeah. And
Yeah.
marketing is often blamed for the
Mm,
problems that we're in, which is understandable. Like, but marketing in its truest form, like when the real beginnings of marketing was about getting the right product or service to the person who's looking for that product or
Mm.
service. And that is the true essence of what it is, not the manipulation and the creating the scarcity so people think that they need to buy loads of shit and then feel guilty because they've consumed a massive amount of stuff, food and
Absolutely.
clothing and products and all the rest of it. And that's still, we've still got an economy that relies on that, so what are you going to do? But there's still a huge amount of like you say, positivity, and marketing has the ability to have these ripple effects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is this big conflict in marketing. I know we've had this conversation on the podcast before a few times of like, being a marketer and part of your job is getting people to buy a thing, and like how you square that away with trying to be more climate conscious. And I think, yeah, often it's about trying to do things as ethically as possible, hopefully marketing
Yeah,
the products that are better than the
yeah,
alternatives. And yeah, I think also, like, I guess in digital as well, there's sort of this like maybe a push back against this sort of growth at all costs mentality that's been quite pervasive for a while, where all that matters is that numbers go up and to the right. It doesn't really matter how. And I think there's a lot more nuance to what it means to be a successful business in 2023 than there ever was before.
yes. Yeah, it's an interesting area. I think it's just interesting as the tides are turning and how what direction that is going to go in. That's why I think I love working with coaches and people in this kind of health and well-being space. And for me, it's about humans and people, and that's what's more important to me, not about
Mm-hmm.
how much stuff that they need. Or I do think it's really important when it comes to product marketing that we are selling the stuff that's, well, I would love just to see everything go into that circular economy model at some point
Mm.
when it comes to products. But obviously that's a huge, huge job at that point. Huge. But it's good,
Yeah.
it's going in the right direction. But yeah, for me it's all about people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, maybe that takes us on to sort of one of your um points around like the future of business and marketing and what that looks like. I guess there's a lot of people talking about all sorts of, well, there's always people talking about buzzwords, but like I feel like now more than ever there's sort of this sense that, are we now living in the future, and are any of us gonna, are the robots gonna take over? But yeah, well, how do you see like the next, I don't know if I should even say few years, like few months,
I know. How
few
things are
months to few years playing out,
how
like
things
in,
are developing at the minute
yeah,
in the
yeah.
technology sector are, yeah,
Mhm.
like it blows my mind. I think it's hard. It is hard to say how quickly this is going to happen. And we are in such a time of revolution, really. Like it's going to be seen as a big era of revolution. Like
Mm,
AI, as much as I love AI, it's because it makes my job so much easier in so many ways.
yeah.
I think there's gonna be a big divide, like humans are I read a book. The guy that wrote Sapiens wrote a follow-up called Homo Deus, I think it was called.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was like his prediction on basically where humanity and AI is going, and how humans are basically going to become the cattle and we are just going to be used to mine the data that's needed for the AI, which is not the nicest of outlooks, I've got to say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a huge divide in, like, not in a Luddite and this is technology and these are the Luddites that are trying to
Mm,
stop it from progressing, but in a way that we are going to have to grasp hold of what it means to be really human, right? And the connection with and the community Like we have lost so much of that over the past 50 years, even. But I can see people looking more towards that now and wanting more of it.
Yeah.
And, even when it comes to having babies and moving away, we would all move away from home and have babies and be isolated. Whereas I think even now people are thinking differently about that and
Mm,
wanting to be closer to family. And, that whole thing about kids needing you need a village to bring up a child.
mm,
And it's
mm.
so true. And I do see a change in people's mentality in that way. So I can see that people are waking up to this thing that, to be human is to be in community and be connected to each other and be sociable because we're sociable animals.
Yeah.
I think using technology to enhance that has been incredible over the past however many years. You just look at COVID and how we were able to connect with each other through technology, and that would never have happened when we were in
Yeah.
this huge lockdown. Um, but the way it's going now, I think there's going to be two camps. I think I would like
Absolutely.
for business. Obviously, that means something completely different because for business, I think as the tides turn for the circular economy and the regenerative business stuff, that hopefully will make a big difference in the next few years.
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating hearing you share some thoughts on that, Kate, because yeah, it's very hard. I mean, and I don't know if anyone can quite predict the future, but it's a very difficult thing to do, and I guess also what's difficult is like predicting the first order consequences and the second order consequences, third order. There's like lots of knock on effects, and I think I share some belief there with you of while there are some things that will become incredibly technically advanced, and maybe a lot of things automated away. There's also almost at the same time and driven by that is this drive for more human connection and more authentic, true, actually being with those that you're closest to, and not having technology be anywhere near anything because it's craving that truly human and natural kind of experience. And I think that's just such a fascinating thing for business, for marketing as well, of like, that not everything will be digital in the future. And if anything, the growth of things that are adamantly not digital, I think could be bigger than ever in the future as we're just craving being out of the I don't want to say metaverse. Oh, I said it. I said metaverse.
Oh no, you said the M word.
That's a swear word, I think, on here. We'll
It's
have
a red
to
word. Don't say
explicit
it.
content. Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I feel like this episode is flown by, Kate, because we're basically almost the time. So
Oh wow.
before we wrap up, like I want to make sure you have some time just to share. I know there's a load of stuff you've been learning on your journey, which
Hmm.
many things we've heard so far. Any specific things you want to give a shout out to? Any people, any movements, any networks, any of your own content? I like now is your moment to
Oh
surface any
wow.
of that, Kate.
So much. There's so much stuff. I've already mentioned obviously the Better Business Network and the
Yeah.
carbon industry training, which have been huge in my journey. I think there's the guys over at Avery and Brown, which are a marketing consultancy. They have something called the Regenerative Mind Map, or Regenerative Business Map, or something. I can't remember what it's called, but
Okay.
if you go onto their website, you'll find that. And that's a free download, which is a huge like just pulling in all of the different elements that businesses need to think about and how to be, how to have an impact and not have an impact and not have a footprint. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes any sense. But
Yeah.
also the Good Business Club, which again is full of like-minded people who are looking to make big changes in the world and do business in a good way. The ethical move is one for the marketing, which has a list of pledges there on how to do marketing in a non-manipulative way.
Oh wow.
Um, who else was that? Oh, I'm trying to think. There was definitely someone. Oh, if you are a coach or consultant, check out Better Bolder Braver, because they, again, through ethical marketing, but they have a coach's marketing journey, which is all about creating a really simple, and it goes through everything from like mindset to your story to your product and pricing, but it's all about doing that in an ethical way so that you're building that authentic trust, because it's all about conversations over conversions. Like I'm all about the metrics and the data, but to actually create relationships with your customers so that they become long-term customers, and not manipulating people into believing that there's something that they need through fear when they really
Yeah.
need it, and then in the long term that's not really a good customer.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're kind of my main
Amazing.
ones, I think. Obviously myself, from
Yes, don't forget yourself, Kate.
myself, the stuff that I'm doing. I have a fortnightly newsletter, so I share loads of stuff on marketing and content marketing and all of this stuff about what, creating authentic connections and all of that lovely stuff on mindset as well.
Okay.
I have an email marketing course actually, which is helping people get started with email marketing, and that goes through
Amazing. That could be
strategy.
handy for some of our
Yes, it
customers.
definitely can be. How to set that up and how to promote it. So yeah, like go and
Oh,
check those
that is
things.
definitely the sweet spot for our listeners, I'm sure. And people can find you on LinkedIn as well. We'll we'll put all of those names and hopefully all of those links into the show notes so that people can find any number of those amazing people and resources and networks. There's so much practical stuff from this episode, Kate. It's amazing. I want to go and join all
Good,
of those things and learn all of those things right now. So
good. I hope it helps somebody
yeah,
on their journey somewhere along the line.
it almost comes back full circle to at the start wanting to do it all, and I need someone to help plan out which order we should do it all
Yeah.
in. Amazing, Kate. Thank you so much for being with us on the show today. It's been a
Thank
pleasure talking
you.
to you. Thank you. And thank you to our listeners as well for listening in. Really, really appreciate every single person listening to the show. If that's you listening right now, thank you. And we will be back with many more episodes soon. If you've enjoyed this show as much as I have recording it, please do let us know via whatever podcast player you're using. Just give it a thumbs up, give it a 5 stars, give it a comment. It helps more and more people find the show and hear from our amazing, amazing guests. So thank you very much and see you next time.